What's good, beautiful souls? I've really been looking into how we are participating in our reality, how we are shaping our reality. Not how reality is happening to us, but how we are happening to reality. What I mean by this, every experience, every circumstance that we come across, we shape the reality of it. We shape the narrative, we shape the story, we shape how we respond to it. Now I know this is real subtle, but it is really how we are participating in our own perception, how our perception is shaping our reality, like a holograph, like a hologram. And the more we tend to come into realization of this, the more we know that memory is just the way that we are shaping reality. Memory is the way that we created the story or the narrative around how reality is happening to us. As that is how people get stuck in their past, as they are reliving that reality. They are still reliving that story. And we can let go and we can experience a new reality with new circumstances, even if being in the same place. Even if waking up in your bedroom, say you wake up in your bed every day. It is the way that we are determining how what is happening to us is happening to us. As yes, we go through challenges, but it is the way we look at how them challenges are impacting us is going to determine our story and our experience ultimately with it. As I say all the time, we can reframe our story. We can reframe. What was that? But we can reframe our story. We can reframe the way that reality is happening to us by really realizing how we are perceiving it, how we are taking it in. As when a challenge appears, we can look at that challenge as what it is showing us and perceiving what is really the challenge and how we are valuing it. As when some things, yeah. Yeah, I'll get it when we leave. Yeah, I'll get it when we leave. And sorry about that, yeah. But then, when we perceive reality, it is how we perceive the story. Again, so when these challenges come up and when we have these ups and downs, we are the ones that determine really if it's a challenge, really if it's an up and down. So we only determine challenges by our value of what is happening. Because when we value something, we are saying, we are putting the value on it. We are saying that it has meaning to it. As when these passions or these gifts, the stuff that gives us energy, we are putting value on it. We are putting energy into it. And that energy is reciprocating. As when we are doing that thing or doing that passion, the energy is flowing. Kind of like this. And this is kind of my hypothesis, but I have studied or I have learned, and I'm just kind of diving into it, but been learning about this stuff with other physicists such as Kyle Perman, I think his name is. But anyways, so when the energy reciprocates, when we add value, when we give value to whatever we are doing, or that passion, or that gift, and the actions we are taking, that is us having the narrative of the story as we are in love, we are in flow. And that is where that, I think, flow comes in. Because the more present we are, the more we are present of the narrative, the more we are present of the story we are given to the circumstance or the experience that we are going through. And this is, again, how we can this is how our brain tries to make predictions off the past into the future, as when we are creating the narrative and somewhat still stuck in the narrative we may have had in the past, we predict that into the future. And that can really just bound us to the past. That can really just bound us to only 1 to 2 narratives or stories that we think are still ongoing, that we think are really permanent in our lives, which is, again, us creating, us precipitating, I think that's how you say it, into that reality, or contributing still into that story, that narrative. And when we are limited, when we are not aware, when we are limited to our awareness of us creating the experience, of us really holding the value, holding the emotion that comes with the experience, then we are bound to these emotions, bound to what not truly is. As yes, it is real if you lose a loved one or something like that happens, it is real. And the emotions that come with that of a normal human being is good to be experienced and to be expressed, but it is knowing that the beautiful moments you had with them and the loving relationship you may have had with them, or the love that you carry for them, are the things that we tend to not look at in them type of situations. And them are the lessons that we need to really look at, or can reframe, that changes the narrative, changes the story, as when people go through abuse or stuff like that, which happens. It is the story that they get stuck in, that carries throughout their lives, through decades, that keeps them in that traumatic, that's what makes it traumatic experience, as they are reframing it. They are still putting the narrative of that was horrific that happened to me, and it is not to say I condone that or anything, because I don't, but it is ultimately us hurting ourselves when we carry the narrative, or we carry the story of that, instead of reframing it and knowing that we wouldn't, as a lot of people say, we wouldn't be here or be the person we are today without that experience, without that lesson, or you don't even call it a lesson, but that experience. And it is the experiences that our soul chooses our reincarnation, our avatar body, to go through, that strengthens us, that gets us to change the narrative, that gets us to be more present and to understand the experiences in different perceptions, that help us ultimately go through other challenges, or go through other circumstances, and help in guiding others and being an example for others of how the experience impacted them in being who they are at that moment, at that present moment. So what am I saying? What am I saying by all this, just to tie it in all together, is that yes, our perception and the way that we are shaping our reality moment by moment is bound to us, is all up to us. How reality is not just inside the brain, how the mind is not just in reality, but reality is inside the mind. So as we are in reality, we dictate the energy that we are giving out. We dictate the experience and the story that we are putting out, which also comes back to us. That energy reflects back to us in that kind of light form, dictating the other stories or the other narratives that we've put on to other circumstances and experiences will reflect back to us, or what we will attract back to us the other circumstances and the stories of the experiences to come. So that's how we get the law of attraction, is by, so in simplest terms, what we give out is what comes back. And really imagining and seeing your manifestations, or seeing the reality that you are going to be in, is key, yes, also, but it is the story and the narrative that you are giving every experience and every moment. The emotions that you are holding with them will ultimately reflect back that energy that is reciprocating back to you for more experiences and more outcomes to come. And when we get good at doing that, we ultimately become more and more, as we already are, but only by the limit of our awareness. We become more and more aware of each moment and each experience, knowing that we hold the narrative, that we hold the story, that we hold, ultimately, the experience. I love y'all. This was kind of a, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of a, just me. This is really what I've been studying, y'all. And I'm getting more into it day by day. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I'm not saying I'm learning good about this. Robert Grant, many other spiritualists talk about this well. And yeah, we ultimately hold the power. As I've said before, we hold the power, and with that comes great responsibility. That is why responsibility is also so key, because when people get into that victim mindhood, that's what attracts, reciprocates that energy back to them, of experiences and stories that they can more put that onto, that story, put that onto that experience that they are attracting by being in that victim-like mindhood, being in that victim-like story. So that is why it's good to express the emotions and be aware of what you are experiencing, but also changing the story, reframing the story, and knowing that you create the story will give you the awareness and the presence to experience what you really and truly desire. I love y'all. I hope y'all found this video informational. I hope y'all found this video good. Yeah, I got many more I'm going to come out with. Make sure y'all comment down below what else y'all want me to talk to. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, I'm going to keep coming back at y'all, man. Love y'all. I'll see you.